So, the Grammys. We all think we know what they're about, right? It's supposed to be the biggest night in music. But what if it wasn't really about the music at all this year? Today, we're diving into a source that makes a really provocative claim, that the Grammys have become less of an award show and more of a political stage. Right out of the gate, the source we're looking at does not mince words. This isn't just a suggestion that things got a little political. No, it's arguing the entire show was basically a front for something else. I mean, that is a bold statement. So how does it even begin to back that up?
The way this source sees it, the Grammys wasn't a celebration. It was a cultural showdown. It argues that the stage completely transformed into a platform for political messages, turning into what it flat out calls a political rally. So let's look at the evidence it presents.
Okay, first up, politics on the podium. The source claims the political messaging wasn't subtle or hidden. So where exactly did it see these messages popping up? Well, it argues the tone was set the second the host, Trevor Noah, walked out. It points right to his opening monologue, not as just harmless comedy, but as, and I'm quoting here, fear politics wrapped in laughter. It saw his jokes about immigration as a direct political commentary right from the top of the show. And according to this article, that was just the opening act. It highlights what it saw as a clear pattern throughout the night. You had Shakira dedicating her award to immigrants, Lady Gaga making a statement on trans visibility, and Alicia Keys defending DEI initiatives. For the author, these weren't just random, isolated comments. They were part of a consistent theme. So when you put all of that together, this source comes to this pretty big conclusion. It claims these moments didn't feel spontaneous or like individual artists just speaking their minds. Instead, it argues, it felt like a unified, almost coordinated message. Basically, Hollywood speaking with one single voice. Okay, so the show was political, fine. But the source we're looking at says the real story isn't just what was being said, it's about who it was being said to. And that brings us to its second big point, the huge difference between the room and the country. And look, this is the question that probably just popped into your head, right? Don't artists have every right to use your platform to say what they think? The source actually gets ahead of this and says, yeah, of course. But that's not what its critique is about. Instead, the article says the real issue is a massive disconnect between the people on stage and the people on the sofa at home. It asks a pretty simple question. Who are these messages actually for? And this slide, man, it really lays out the two different worlds the source is talking about. Inside that arena, you've got this bubble of mutual applause, of unity, of everyone agreeing. But the article suggests that for the viewer at home, it can feel totally different, like you're being instructed, which can lead to division and frustration. And this quote right here, it basically sums up the entire argument. Hollywood keeps mistaking applause inside an arena for national consensus. In other words, the source is arguing that the industry is in a massive echo chamber, hearing all those cheers and thinking the entire country feels the exact same way. So what happens when you have this huge disconnect? Well, according to the source, the consequences are very real, and you can actually measure them. Which brings us to part 3, the audience tunes out. The article draws a straight line from what it calls lecturing to two big things. People stop trusting these institutions, and well, they just stop watching. The ratings start to fall. And the source points to the numbers to make its case. It argues that this years-long drop in viewership isn't a coincidence. It's a direct result of viewers feeling like they're being talked down to. So they're not just changing the channel, they're tuning out completely. And this is the why behind those falling numbers, at least according to the article. It describes a huge chunk of the audience that feels, and I quote, divided, frustrated, and increasingly tired of being talked down to by an entertainment industry they feel is just completely out of touch. Okay, so if this whole thing isn't just about some speeches or bad ratings, what is it really about? Well, the source argues it's something much, much bigger, which leads to its final point. This is all just a fight for the mic. And this is where it gets really interesting. The article says, you know what? Forget the specific jokes, forget the specific policies for a second. It claims all of that is just a symptom of a much deeper struggle that's going on under the surface. Because at the end of the day, the source boils its entire argument down to this one single word. The real fight, it claims, isn't about left versus right. It's about power. But what kind of power are we talking about here? Not necessarily political power. It's about cultural power. And it all comes down to these three really fundamental questions. Who gets to hold the microphone in our society? Who gets to control the main narrative? And maybe most importantly, who decides what ideas get applauded?
And that leaves us with the final big question the source puts on the table. If that gap between the stage and the sofa keeps getting wider, and a huge part of the audience feels totally ignored, do they just change the channel for the night? Or do they stop tuning into these big cultural moments for good? It's a question that's about a lot more than just one award show.